Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I'm going to work on what I call a happy reel. I call it a happy reel because I generally get these as part of bulk purchases at a flea market, or somebody has got some tackle that they want to liquidate or something and the like that has been sitting around a long time, like this one, evidenced by some cobwebs in the rotor. And I generally like to make a video on it to show folks that if they have this reel, how it can be serviced. And then I like to give it away, make somebody happy. So it's a happy reel. I found some folks to work with, some places like scouting organizations and local camps, as well as just running into an occasional youngster somewhere that is maybe fishing or wants to learn about fishing, and then just hand it off. They're not very expensive reels. They are good learning. They're great for ponds. This one's probably a 2000 size. And it's the Zebco RF Series. Now, when I purchased this one, it also came with a rod. Obviously, from a how to service a reel standpoint, I don't need it attached to the rod, so I took that off. I also took off the line. Whenever you're servicing a reel, you want to make sure that you remove the line if you don't know the history of the reel. I recommend that you replace the line on an annual basis, regardless of whether it's been fishing 2 or 3 times or 200 or 300 times. Get rid of that line because that's the first and most common thing that will fail on a fishing reel. Also, this one was having a problem with a stuck bail, and I just simply took some penetrating oil and I just put it in the seams of the bail, and now I have a bail that works. So if you have a bail that works, you don't need to take this off. You don't need to play with the springs or anything. Just get it working again. All right, so we're going to take this stuff off, show you how this reel is made, and tune it up and get it to somebody to make them happy. So I like to start by removing the exterior parts. We're going to take the spool off. Very dirty, right? That can be cleaned. You can see what makes an inexpensive reel inexpensive. These are steel drag washers as opposed to a stainless or some other kind of a washer in there. They've become pitted. I suspect that the drag doesn't work very well on this reel. And you know what, you probably don't need much drag anyway, but it's good to know how to service that, and we'll show you that in just a little bit. You can also see that the click ratchet on this one is also rusted, which tells you that the material is not a stainless material. I'm going to use a cleaner. In this case, I'm going to use Purple Power just to give it a squirt. There's nothing that says because the reel is not that expensive it can't look pretty. It certainly looked pretty when it was attached to a rod in that retail environment when it was sold. So let's see if we can't restore some of the original luster. We're not going to be able to restore it all because, well, can't remove the rust and the like, but you can make it prettier and give it that, if it's not a wow factor, whatever it is, a little fashion statement there. But look how nice that cleaned up. Just be careful if you're using this this Purple Power. I understand it's got lye in it. It's a concentrated cleaner and degreaser, so if you do go use that, wear a glove. It helps protect it. Let's see what's going on with these drag washers. I'm sure there's not much we can do, but the drag washers are held in by a little spring clip, and notice the word spring. They will shoot, so be careful as you remove those that they don't shoot. And let's just pull up on that stack, see what we have here. So we have a hard washer. That one's fine. The spool underneath is clear. You would expect to find a hard washer in these because no lubrication is required on hard washers. Surprisingly, the bottom side that's connecting with that hard washer is actually in pretty good shape. So you probably do have a reasonable drag in here. And I'm just going to use a little bit of steel wool here just to kind of clean that up. Make sure that that side goes down. Now we do have a rusted top, and that's coming from that tension washer. But again, that won't interfere with the performance of the drags because you have the smooth side here. So we're going to go ahead and put that down. Not much you can do with this this little tension washer. It's a spring washer. It's steel. It's rusted. You can try and remove it. It doesn't have to be particularly smooth. It's got a little spring function in it, and the functionality of this is really about the sensitivity of the drag adjuster. It's not the drag itself. So just kind of clean it off, and that's what a 4.0, which is the ultra fine steel wool, will do. put that back in. And then we can reinstall the clip. Now there's a groove in the spool here. Just seat one side of the spring clip into that groove and then kind of walk it around until all of the points are seated properly. Doesn't matter which side you start with, just get them all in there, and generally you can hear them snap in, and you know that you've accomplished what you set out to do there. All right, well, just gonna use a pick to help me with this. One more side here, and again, you got to be careful. This will spring on you, so just make sure that as you're doing this, that you've tucked each one of these into the groove. There you go. And that you've taken care of that. We're going to set the spool aside. Probably should have cleaned that adjuster knob while I had it, so let's go ahead and put a little bit more on there. This does a good job. It is a concentrated degreaser. In this case, it's mostly just kind of dirt. It's probably been laying in a side of a lake or something in the dirt, right? We've all been there with the twigs and the rod holders and that, and the reel gets a little bit too far down and kind of gets dirty, right? Looks like a single screw take apart. Let's see what we can do there. It also has, the handle should unscrew as well. Let's go ahead and do that. You unscrew that by turning it in a clockwise manner. Let's come over to this side. Take that single screw out. And then this probably has a couple of little tags on this side case, kind of hiding in there. Yeah, you have two tags. Just check the back, it's ultra clean. I think the reason why this is performing the way it is it's totally dry. So we can go ahead and show you how this is made now. I generally use a parts tray, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of parts here, so I'm just going to lay that right in front of me. There's a pin that holds the crosswind block in. Notice the orientation on this crosswind block when you go to take it off. The pin is on the down side of that block. Very easy to flip this one the other way because it's somewhat symmetrical. If you flip it the other way, you're going to bump into that gear piece up top there. All right, we pulled that off. We can remove the axle shaft. Put that pin right in front of me as well. I'm going to take that ever-present piece of steel wool and just polish off the dirt and grease and grime that's on that shaft. And while I'm doing that, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel and everybody who's keeping us safe during the pandemic. Yep, it seems like we're finally beating this thing. A lot of people have gotten vaccinated. The infection rates are down, but there's still people that are hospitalized. There's still people that are getting the COVID. And there's still a lot of people dedicated day in and day out to help keep them safe and restoring their health. And I want to thank you for that. All right, here's your crosswind block. Remember we said the point on this goes to the downside. I'm just going to wipe off the old grease on that. There's a rotor cup that has the pinion gear attached to it, and the way that you remove that is you take the little U-clip that's connecting that out of that carrier, and you can pull your rotor cup up because you want to get the dirt underneath. In this case, I'm not going to use that cleaner. I'm going to use a penetrating oil because there's a little tag there that becomes the ramp for the bell trip. And I want to make sure that I get a little bit of oil into that cavity there. And the penetrating oil is not generally a lubricating oil, but it will help with that bail function. You'll see it come up and down here as we move this. I'm going to set it to the up position so that I can get any dirt there. And while I have the rotor off, I'll finish cleaning those cobwebs off. And I'm using a cotton swab to do that. And then I'll just do one more shot here in the bowl. That way we can get all of the dust and dirt and the like. Now that's important because when you put greases on, greases is a natural trap for dirt. And if you don't clean it out, chances are dirt will come in there and it will slow the performance of your fishing reel. All right, let's just set that back. Then I only have the main gear to take off. Now I want to make sure that I put that anti-reverse dog in the off position before I remove the main gear. And that's so that when I go to reinstall, it comes back and goes in easily and doesn't bump up against these teeth. So whether you're working on a $10 reel or a $200 reel, the principles are all basically the same. You want to clean them, you want to check for damage, you want to make sure that any dirt is removed from them. If there's any broken pieces and parts, you want to replace them. Doubt if you can get any pieces and parts for this reel, but the idea is keep it lubricated, keep it clean, and this reel will keep fishing. And as I mentioned, this will find some youngsters somewhere that's going to be just delighted with this, and it'll probably last them long into their adulthood if they take care of it. If they choose to just continue to fish the pond for the smaller fish, this thing will do what it's been designed to do from day one, and should be problematic because there's limited pieces and parts in it. If there is a downfall to it, is the quality of the metal in the parts. But again, this is an occasional reel. This isn't something that a person's going to use every day to go fishing. And if it's occasional, 10 times a year, I don't know, whatever the definition of occasional is, then this thing can last a long time. All right, there's 2 slots here is actually where the side plate is going to go. And we can just do a little bit more cleaning underneath here while we have that rotor out. And again, this was a pretty respectable reel in the sense of design and all. All right, I'm going to put the rotor back in. That's going to mesh with the main gear. That little horseshoe clip is going to go in next. That's going to hold the rotor on, and then we can spin it, and you'll see how the main gear spins. Look at that. You know what? That's free and easy. That's what's important. This is your cross wind block. It needs a little bit of grease underneath. We'll get that in and we'll put that back on. Remember what we said when we did this, that the pin is on the down side of the cross wind block. Easy enough to confuse. We've got the axle shaft, which we already took care of, light coating of grease. Don't put too much grease on this one because it'll only squeeze out in here. Then it'll become a dirt trap. You don't want that. Let's get that into the cavity here. Sounds like we got a little storm coming underneath here. Line this hole here with the hole in the crosswind block. And go grab that pin that we have so that you can hold that axle shaft in. And you may need to turn that axle shaft a little bit to get that done. A little bit of oil onto the threads of the handle will keep that from rusting if it's not a stainless handle, and I would suspect that I would worry about this. Handle on. Turn it this way and watch it work. Look at this. Boy, that's a nice little reel. So it doesn't have to be expensive to be designed well, and it again, the design is all about who your audience is. Not everybody needs that high-end watertight 10 ball bearing reel. This doesn't have any ball bearings in it, but it's going to catch a lot of fish, and as I said, it's going to put a smile on somebody's face, and that's half the fun of doing this reel repair. All right, we have a cleaned up spool. Let's put that on. Cleaned up spool, cleaned up rotor, drag adjuster, and this reel is basically done. So one of the downsides on this reel is it does not have an interchangeable handle. This can only be fished from the left side. You cannot move this side plate over. Look at that, how nice. And then we'll make sure that our bail is tripping. It is. And this one goes into my, let's find a worthy child to do that. And if you know somebody who could benefit from that, leave me a note. Oops. I'm getting stuck on the ramp now. There you go. Leave me a note. I'd be happy to send it out to somebody if you know somebody would be deserving of it, and you can put the smile on their face. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. If you like this kind of stuff, please subscribe. If you want to see more, that's the best way to do it because you'll get the notifications as to which ones that I'm doing, and you can kind of watch along. the drag is holding here. Just checking on that. If you have questions on this reel or any reel in particular, leave them in the comment section. I do try to respond to them. And finally, if you have a reel that needs to be serviced, well, I do that too. And I would be happy to provide you the service information if you send me a note to my email on the business card that follows. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.